Welcome everybody to Tales from the Jar Side for the week of September 24th to October 1st, 2023. My name is Ken Cousin, and let's get right to it. This week's title is Tales from the Jar Side, Translations to Hindi, Spring in AI without Spring AI, Java 21 features, today's students are so young, and the usual collection of silly tweets and toots. The subtitle this week is, I just invented the first thought-controlled air freshener. It makes sense when you think about it. Yeah, there you go. Sorry about that. I think I'm finally acknowledging that I'm getting most of these gags that I use in the subtitles from the Dad Says Jokes Twitter feed, just in case you wondered. It's one of the few reasons I still drop by Twitter now and then. Welcome, fellow jarheads, to Tales from the Jar Side, the Cousin IT newsletter for the week of September 24th to October 1st, 2023. This week, the only training class I had was my Upgrade to Modern Java course as a no-fluff, just stuff virtual workshop, but that was fun too. Regular readers of and listeners to, and of course, video viewers of this newsletter are affectionately known as jarheads and are far more intelligent, sophisticated, and attractive than the average newsletter reader or listener or viewer. If you wish to become a jarhead, please subscribe using the button that is available on the newsletter. The button is also available on the Substack site, which is at kencousin.substack.com, as you could see up in the URL here. This is also our opportunity to take a glance at the YouTube channel. So if I go to youtube.com/tales at Tales from the Jar Side, you can see that I am now up to, at the moment, 755 subscribers, which went through a bit of a roller coaster this week. I'll mention that a little bit. The big videos that happened this week, first of all, I'll get to this a little bit later, but I did put out a video called Spring in AI without Spring AI, List the Models. I have several videos planned on that. I've already got the code worked out for many features. What I'm basically doing is redoing the earlier videos that didn't use Spring, this time with Spring. So we let Spring take advantage of the infrastructure support of Spring, dependency injection, and many other features, and see how that simplifies and streamlines our code without having to worry about using the so-called Spring AI subproject, which is still in very early alpha. In terms of YouTube Shorts, there is a new one up there. In fact, there are two new ones. There was one I put up there yesterday that I haven't even mentioned yet. The one that I'm going to show in a moment is this one called Spying on Makito, now in Hindi, believe it or not. And yesterday I put up one called the Returns First Argument Method in Makito's Additional Answers class, this time in Dutch, of all things. So yeah, we got some stuff to talk about there. So let me hang on to that and I'll come back to those. Let's take a look at the newsletter first. So Tales from the Jar Side in Hindi. Well, there's an AI service that I learned about from Matt Wolf's YouTube channel. Matt Wolf has a very big YouTube channel where he reviews the latest tools and techniques that are available in the AI world. He focuses mostly on that. And he mentioned this one called HeyGen Labs, which he mentioned with a lot of enthusiasm. The beauty of this, what this does is if you hand it a video and you tell it what language you want the video to be in, it will not only translate the text into that language, it will modify the video. As they say here, it alters the video to make it look like you're speaking that language. That kind of boggles the mind. That's pretty amazing. Now, the translations, I don't know how good their quality is. I'm not really sure, but boy, the video work is really solid. So I had to try it out on the free tier. When I registered, I received 2 whole credits, but that's good for 2 minutes of video. Each credit, I think, is 1 minute worth of video. By that calculation, I think I can do that in my head. Therefore, I took one of my YouTube shorts from back in April or May, the one called Spy Master Unveiling the Mysteries of Makito's Spies in 60 Seconds. And I uploaded that to the HeyGen service, which informed me I was 77,500 something place in line. Holy mackerel. It took, I don't know, 6 or 7 days to make it to the front of the queue. I almost canceled it. I thought, well, it's not hurting me to just sit there in line. So I kind of ignored it. I check it every once in a while. And then eventually I got an email that said, yeah, we're done. Like, what? Oh, okay. So here it is. And I picked Hindi. It turns out that if you look at the distribution of subscribers to this channel, otherwise known as Jarheads, the second largest group comes from India. The first largest, by far the most, come from the US. Not terribly surprising. But the second largest comes from India, so I thought I'd try that. And this is what it sounded like. Now, it's only a minute long, but the part I like is near the end when I mentioned Tales from the Jar Side and YouTube channel, and it decided not to translate that for some reason. So here we go.
तुम 60 सेकंड में मकितो जासूसों के रहस्यों का पर्दाफाश करने के लिए स्पाई मास्टर में आपका स्वागत है। मकितो स्पाई क्या है? रहस्य का पर्दाफाश करे, मकितो जासूसी का उपयोग कर सके उनके संवादों की पुष्टि करने के लिए। मेरे पास एक कक्षा है जिसमें एक लॉगर है, विधि का परीक्षण करना है जो नहीं लौट आती है। चीज का परीक्षण कैसे करते हैं? कुछ वापस नहीं आ रहा। तुम क्या करते हो और मैं इस टेस्ट में लॉगर को एक जासूसी में लपेटे। जब आप इस विधि को कॉल करते हैं तो आप संदेश को जासूस को भेजा गया था कि जानकारी संदेश सत्यापित कर सकते हैं। अधिक विवरण और समान वीडियो के लिए टेल्स फ्रॉम द जार साइड यूट्यूब चैनल की सदस्यता जरूर करें। बहुत धन्यवाद।
Yeah, go figure. I don't know. I don't even know what to say. The music, by the way, what happened when I uploaded... Okay, first of all, HeyGen took out the background music that I originally had on the video. I don't know why, but it removed that. And therefore, I took the short they made, I uploaded it to Descript, which is the tool I often use for shorts, and I added music in the background again. I looked for something related to spies or whatever, and that's as close as I got. And I put the little logo on there, but that was about it. Then I had to find out whether this was any good or not, so I didn't actually share it with anybody I knew, even though I know lots of Indian developers. But my friend Dilip Thomas, who contacted me about the GIDS conference for next year, was bugging me about some abstracts, and therefore I thought, oh, I know, I'll contact him. So at any rate, here's the GIDS conference, just so you know. It's of course, they got Venkat right on the cover. They call it Great International Developer Summit. That's Neil Ford, another no-fluff speaker, Michael Carducci. Oh, hey, wow, kind of goofy looking picture, but that's me. And Mark Richards. Wow, all no-fluff people on the front, or former no-fluff people. Yeah, and we're back around to Venkat again. This conference is held in Bangalore every year, although the pandemic threw a monkey wrench into that. Okay, I think I can close that now. It's at developersummit.com. That's the homepage. You're welcome to take a look. I've been there twice now. It's a lot of hours in a plane to get to India. And it's not fun going through security. I mean, it's not fun going through American security either. I mean, I don't want to call out anybody when compared to ours. Oh my goodness. But at least I have paid all the right fees, and therefore I kind of coast through US security. I have what they call pre-check and global entry. So that helps a lot. But I don't have anything special in India. So it's just kind of make it through and hope they let you go. And it gets kind of awkward sometimes. Neil's had some bad experiences too. But once I'm there, boy, I've had a wonderful time there. The people are charming. The conference is great. The audiences are big and enthusiastic. I really like it. I've sent Dilip, I'm trying to give him a hard time about this, but I've sent him like 5 abstracts for next year. So, that ought to be fun. At any rate, I sent him the YouTube short in Hindi, and his response was, and I did ask him for permission to share his comment. Your YouTube short in Hindi had me in stitches, which, okay. You've got the voice of a Bollywood star. Yeah, I don't think so, but thank you. But the translation was way off. It's a literal translation from English to Hindi. So, for example, it translated class into kaksha, which is more like a class of students in a lecture hall. I don't remember saying the word class in there, but okay. It's a funny reminder that AI translation still has some kinks to work out. Yeah, definitely. I did get a couple of comments on the short. Somebody saying the Hindi was hard to follow, even for native Hindi speakers. Yeah, but I think he liked the music, and I'm from India. It certainly reminded me of the talking hat from the Harry Potter series. So either I'm a Bollywood star or I'm the sorting hat. Either way, that was fun. Now, I'm not going to make a habit of this because as I show you here, this is the pricing on that service. I have a couple of free credits. But if you want to get some regular credits, 30 credits a month, let me see if I can magnify that. Yeah, so for $48 a month, really $50 a month if you pay annually, then you get 30 credits a month. So that's only 30 minutes, and each video can only be 5-minute max, but it does skip the line. I'm like, thanks, seriously? And for business, let's talk. And my reaction is, let's not, But okay, I get it. And what I wanted to show you is, I submitted another one and I only wound up in like position 1,500, 600, something like that. And this is the other one in Dutch.
Ik wilde een gesimuleerde methode in Makito voor het retourneren van het eerste argument. Gewoon wat dan ook, ik geef het terug. En ik moest in deze antwoordinterface en anoniem komen. Oei. Nee, gelukkig is er een lambda variant. En ik zou de lambda kunnen doen, maar wat is oproep en al die onzin? Wist je dat er een methode is genaamd returns first arg en the additional answers class? Wie wist dat? Weet je wat het doet? Het retourneert zijn eerste argument. Hoe zit het daarmee? Voor meer details en voor extra voorbeelden zoals deze, abonneer je op het YouTube kanaal Tales from the Jar site. Dankjewel. Tot ziens.
Did you notice there were subtitles that were auto-generated by YouTube in Dutch? Now, I have no idea how accurate they were. They did mention arc there instead of arg, first argument. But still, okay, what the heck? I got it up there. I have one more that's processing as we speak. We'll see how that comes out. And that one's going to be in Polish. Because I've been to Warsaw once. I had some of the brightest students I've ever met. My goodness, they were phenomenal. And I thought, what the heck, let's give that one a try and see what it's like. Maybe I should have done another one in Hindi. If you're interested, I think I get 2 credits a month. If I make shorts, I'll try them out. We'll see how it goes. Now, it did give me an excuse to try something out. Oh, I did mention, by the way, if you do try it yourself, then I did give you an affiliate link, so I don't get any money, but they give me a credit if you sign up and make one or something. The only Bollywood movie I mentioned, speaking of Bollywood stars, is not really from Bollywood. It's from apparently what they call Tollywood. It's the RRR movie, if you've never seen that. I think I clicked here. I just gave it a link to the Wikipedia page on this thing. And all I can say about RRR is that Hollywood doesn't know over the top like this. I mean, this is whatever you think is beyond the pale, way too big, way over the top, multiply by about 10 and you might get close to RRR. It is really fun. It gets a little violent in spots for parts I don't like, but it is so much great. It's so great. And if all you want to do is just see a clip, then go to YouTube and search for Natu, right? Do you Natu, something like that? In fact, I think I could do it here. Do Natu? And yeah, try watching one of those videos. Oh, that's fun. Boy, did they do a great job on that. Although this is the one from Netflix, apparently. So that's the one with 11 million views. Yeah, that's probably the one I would watch. Boy, was that. I mean, it's a musical, and it's not. And it's a bromance, probably the greatest one ever made. And it's not. And it's an action adventure, and it's a mystery. It's just everything. Again, whatever you think is over the top, multiply by 2, add 1, and convert to the next higher units. Okay, so that's RRR. it did give me an opportunity to try out a feature of the OpenAI service that I hadn't used yet. If you look at the OpenAI API, which I think I have here, then there's an API endpoint called Translations. And if you could see from this curl request, the idea is that you put in a post request to Translations, you put in your header, you submit multi-part form data where one part is the file that you want to translate, and then the model's Whisper 1 because that's the only choice you have. And it brings back the translation. If you change your response format away from JSON to just text, it'll just give you back the text in the body. And in fact, I went and did this. No, here's my OpenAI demo project at GitHub. It's the one I used on the earlier videos before I adapted to Spring, before I'm making the Spring ones. And under this Whisper package here, I have Whisper Transcribe, and now I have Whisper Translate. And the idea is that there's the URL, and again, you have the same size limitations on the file, and you can break it up if you want. And all I have to do is translate a chunk, and what I'm using here is Apache's HTTP client to do all the work, to put in the body, to put in, this is the binary file, this is the model, which is Whisper 1, there's the response format, the language I want is English, and the prompt, actually I shouldn't be specifying that because the language I put in was not English. Huh. Maybe I should take that out. At any rate, when I did the execute and got back a string, that's the result. So I'm translating this file after potentially splitting it up. And here's the result. So in my source main resources folder is under audio is the assert.jhindi.wave. And here's the resulting translation, which I embedded in the newsletter this week. And, it doesn't look that bad. I think it's kind of okay. So maybe the translation tool, being a neural network, did some interpretation that cleaned it up a bit. I wouldn't be at all surprised. But I don't know. Again, I have to talk to some other native Hindi speakers and see what they think. This turned out to be really easy to do, though, because my Whisper transcription one and the Whisper translation one are essentially identical. You just change URLs for the endpoint and you're pretty much done. So, wow, I have to find some way to clean up both those classes just so I can generalize a little bit, get rid of some of the duplicated code, but really easy to do. Okay, back to the newsletter. Okay, so now let's talk about Spring and AI without Spring AI. I had some really weird behavior on the YouTube channel. What happened is Dan Vega, who has his own YouTube channel at Dan Vega and actually does lots and lots and lots of Spring-related videos, really good stuff, posted on Twitter, and I don't go to Twitter very often, but he posted this at building a list of YouTubers in the Java/Spring community that everyone should know about. I can just share the list, but I will probably put together a video on it as well. Also, I need your suggestions below. And I didn't really look at it because I was kind of busy. I don't go to Twitter much. And I already know Dan. He's already been a guest on the live stream. I didn't have to sell him on, hey, what about Tales from the Jar Side? He already knows about it. But one of the other channels that I do subscribe to is called Siva Labs. And Siva of Siva Labs put up, how come nobody has yet mentioned these awesome channels? They mentioned Spring Academy, which is the newer one from the Spring Framework people at VMware. I believe that's the same one, but Maciej Walkowiak is really good. I've met him a couple of times, at least online, so I'm sure whatever he's doing is excellent. The Programming Techie one, that one I don't know. That's a new one to me. I haven't looked at that yet. And then he mentioned Tales from the Jar Side, and it wound up putting that right inside the tweet. And I was like, whoa. And what you can see down here is this thing's gotten like over 4,300 views at the time I took the snapshot, almost 4,400. That's a lot. So what happened is I got this burst of subscribers. Now, I don't know if that burst occurred because of this, or you can see here, this is a little graph taken from my analytics, and you see the little icons along the bottom. That's when I release a video or a short, or this icon's for a live stream. So you can see the difference one there. I did release a short here on the same day that Siva made his recommendation, but look at that gain. Now this is gain surprise. This is a measure of subscribers gained per day. So even the drop is still gaining subscribers in a way. Well, what actually happened, if you looked at my analytics, is I jumped from 705 to 762. I mean, it looked like I was going crazy here for me. That was a lot. And I went to bed at 762 Friday night. I woke up Saturday morning and it was down to 741. It was like a bunch of people went, oops, no, we don't want to do that. And I'm like, okay. So then it went to 747 and it was still jumping around a bit. But as you saw today, we're back at about 755. So, hey, still gaining. I don't know what happened. And then I said, oh, 747. I should probably make an airplane joke like, hope it makes a soft landing. Wait a minute. Although I probably should have said, I surely hope it makes a soft landing and don't call me Shirley. See, I missed that. What an opportunity. But okay. So my guess is that Siva Labs certainly contributed to that burst. Maybe the fact I released a Hindi short at the same time contributed to the burst. I don't know what contributed to the decline. I didn't do anything between the burst and the decline. So it wasn't me. That's all I know for sure. I mean, unless they looked at it and went, no, that's not what we want, which, okay, that could happen too. I guess it's just one of those things. I don't know. We'll see what happens when Dan releases his recommendations video, because he's got like 35, 40,000 subscribers. I mean, on YouTube, that could get a lot of attention, but I don't know if it'll have any impact at all. I mean, who knows, right? It might be completely random. Anyway, this one with Spring and AI, without the Spring AI project, is my attempt to, as I mentioned, redo all of these OpenAI access videos, but this time taking advantage of what Spring has to offer. Oh, and by the way, the robot on the cover I made not using that, because the only image model that's still available to me right now through OpenAI is DALL-E 2. And I'm waiting eagerly for DALL-E 3 to become available. It is apparently available as of today in Bing Chat, but I want it through the programmatic API. I'm hoping within the next week or two that'll be available. At any rate, I made this robot using Midjourney, and all I asked for was a picture of a robot, a happy robot, jumping in joy on springs, and this is what I got. So believe me, you get some weird stuff from these AI tools. When I get when I get DALL-E 3, I'll try again. So my plan was for this to be one giant video, but I wound up breaking it down into just this first one. I did use the HTTP Exchange interfaces, which was nice. The Jackson 2 parser is built into Spring, and since most of my experience was with JSON, that took me a little bit of adapting, but not much. I used dependency injection, like I created the HTTP Exchange interfaces, and in the next video, I took those interfaces, because they're just interfaces, and I auto-wired into a service class so that I could do pre- and post-processing on the requests. It's true I can, and in fact did, add a default method to the HTTP interface that I used. But for real services, it seems likely that I should put the HTTP interface networking part separately from the service class that's going to do a lot of related work. It's just separation of principles there. So that's where the dependency injection will come in as well. Also, I'm using like @value to put in the base URL and my authorization key. And then I use Java stuff, mostly records, but I also did a little bit with text blocks and pattern matching and the rest. Everything, of course, is tested. I still like AssertJ. What I was playing around with over the weekend, because I needed this for one of them, was an @JSON test, because they have what they call these slice tests in Spring, where you don't have to load the entire application context every time. And I could just test the parsing, because what I did, and I've committed to the repository, but I haven't done a video on it yet, is I took, in the chat part, you specify the role for each message. Role is either system, which is kind of overall, or user, which is where you ask your questions, or assistant, which is what's coming back from GPT. And I decided to make that into an enum, but then I had to figure out how to use serialize and deserialize the enum in such a way that it gets put into the request in lowercase, because the request wants everything in lowercase. That's the annoying part. And it turned out that wasn't as hard as I was afraid it was going to be. So I put in that, and it's in a test, and everything is in the GitHub repository, which is currently located here at OpenAI Client. And I mentioned a bit about it. You have to set up your key. There's a couple of notes about how to run things. That transcription service does the transcribing. The translation service is in there too, but I didn't update the README about it. So in case you're interested, all the code is there, and I intend to keep adding to that as we go along. Okay. Next section, some random notes about things. Kay Horseman is the inimitable author of the Core Java series, as well as a whole series of other books, many other books. Core Java is one of my favorites. It's been around for practically from the beginning of Java. I think he's in, honestly, 12th edition now. And he put up a new blog post. I think I have it here. Java 21, the nice, the meh, and the momentous. As you might imagine, the momentous is the virtual threads. That's all in there. So if I scroll down a little bit, you see he talks about pattern matching for switch, which I've been waiting for forever. Record patterns, sequence collections, which, okay, here's the virtual threads part, of course. And notice how he's replacing, if you can see that, what he's really replacing is an async request from HTTP that returns a completable future. He's replacing all of that with just a regular old synchronous send. And I haven't been through it enough yet to see how did that manage to go on different threads, or is he just relying on the underlying infrastructure to spawn a separate thread and take care of it? But that is nice. Bunch of miscellaneous methods are the meh part, and then lots and lots of bug fixes. And he goes into all the details, and I just haven't had a moment to go through the whole thing yet, but I wanted to let you know about it. So I've got it linked in the newsletter. Next, unlike the Spring-based one described above, my OpenAPI demo one, that is linked in the repository, it has that image carousel in it that I talked about a couple weeks ago and made a little short about, that loads up all the images stored under source main resources and all of its subdirectories and shows the images one at a time, rotating every 3 seconds, something like that. It's a JavaFX image carousel. And up until this weekend, the only way I could execute that was to use Gradle with the JavaFX dependencies and the application plugin to say, hey, go ahead and run. Here's what I'm actually talking about. Here's the image carousel. It extends application, which is from JavaFX.application, and at the bottom, it's got start here. I say bottom, but this is where it fires up and sets up everything with the keyframe and the timeline and all of that to rotate the images. I load all the images from all the way down, then change from one image to the next, and on and on and on. And up until this weekend, I couldn't run it inside IntelliJ unless I did the Gradle run task. So here is my application plugin executing the Gradle run task. And again, the only problem is it's going to run it on the wrong screen. So I got to drag it over here. And you'll be able to see the images rotating one by one every couple of seconds. And you see that DALL-E 2 just ought to see. Now that's not DALL-E, that's Midjourney or Stable Diffusion. They're both really good. So at any rate, I couldn't do this. What changed over the weekend is I was in a conversation with Geertjan, not exactly sure how to pronounce his name, Geertjan Vilenga, who was talking to me about Azul Systems. I think he works there now. And I mentioned I'd installed using SDKman Zulu21.fx, which has the FX libraries built into it, the JavaFX libraries built into it. So in my project now, you can see that I have changed the SDK to use that Azul version 21. You can't tell it from here, but it's the one with that FX library in it. And now I can simply run this like it was a main method. I can just say, yeah, go ahead and execute this. and it came up immediately on the other screen again, you know? So now I can do what I want to do all along, which is to be able to run inside IntelliJ without having to go with all the Gradle dependencies. And it's just because they bundled in JavaFX into their JDK. And I thought that was wonderful. That really helped me out. I probably should make a video about that. Actually, that seems more appropriate for a short. So maybe I'll make a short about that. Okay, next section or subsection here. I've mentioned a few times I'm teaching this class for undergrads at Trinity College in Hartford. In fact, I have to get over there tonight too. I've got another session tonight. And the kids have a lot of enthusiasm and they're a lot of fun, but they're very young. And I used as a bit of perspective, they were all born after 9/11. You know, it's like, okay, 9/11 to them is like, I don't know, Korea to me. You know, it's like ancient history. Way before my time, I had no idea. And that's like, I remember 9/11. I remember a lot of this stuff. Anyway, it means that they're not aware of a lot of the stuff that I live through and take for granted. And the problem is that means I get tempted into telling stories. I mentioned Java applets, and they'd never heard of applets. Never heard of applets. That's how I first got involved in Java. And I said, well, you know, in the early days of the web, Mark Andreessen, this is how he got involved in all this. He created the Netscape browser, and they'd never heard of Netscape, which was like, but that's what replaced Mosaic. I didn't even say it because I knew they'd never hear of Mosaic, you know. And he created Netscape, and he had like 80% market share there for a while, Netscape did. And then he bundled a JVM right into the browser, and that's what allowed Java to run on the client side, and that's what applets were all about. And it was that combination of Andreessen bundling a JVM into Netscape and the rise of the internet and Java replacing C++ that made Java go what we would now say viral. You know, that made it become this widely adopted thing that simplified C++ so much and yet was designed for this new hot internet thing. And now, of course, Netscape is doomed. You know, it's gone because, I mean, I've still got Firefox, you know, it's intellectual descendant. I mean, depending on how much descendant you want to say anymore at this point. And Andreessen made his money in venture capital, as so many of these guys do. But the legend has it that Bill Gates was wandering around Microsoft one day and poking his head in all the offices, and everybody was running Netscape. And that's what caused him to turn the company on a dime and say, we're internet enabling everything. And then the next version of IE, Internet Explorer, which I think was 3, believe it or not, was roughly equivalent to Netscape. Not as good, but roughly equivalent, at which point Netscape was doomed. They weren't going to be able to compete. At any rate, so that they didn't know any of this stuff. Oh, and also, of course, how Brandon Ike threw together a language for the client side in about a month, which was supposed to be called LiveScript. That was the working title, from what I understand. And then the marketing people renamed it JavaScript. And most of them didn't know that either. So, okay, it was story time. And then I wonder why I don't have time to talk about all the stuff I want to talk about in class. Oh, well. At least they haven't heard all my jokes yet. Let's get to the Toots and Tweets and Skeets stuff. Social media posts. This was kind of ghoulish. Somebody posted, breaking, Dianne Feinstein passes away at age 90, will continue to serve as senator. I wouldn't put it past her, and I'm not giving that a rim shot. Let's move on. We did lose the other Dumbledore. That's Michael Gambon, I think is his name. Yeah, Gambon. I don't know how you pronounce it exactly, but I put on the CNN entertainment link, but there's many comments around the internet. My favorite baseball player when I was a kid was Brooks Robinson. Brooks Robinson, who spent 23 years with the Baltimore Orioles. And, I saw him play in person a few times, and he was just always great. Everybody knew he was such a good guy in addition to everything else. So he was my favorite, but, oh well. I'm not going to report on every person I know who passes away because that's already happening too often for me to include it in the newsletter. Okay, this one. When you have absolutely no clue how your code got into its current state. Yeah, I bet. I mean, there's got to be a story there. Oh my goodness, how'd that bus get like that? Okay, Then this one I titled You Decorated My Life. It says, my friend Bobby just casually said, if art is how we decorate space, music is how we decorate time. And I was like, hold up. That is food for thought. It's interesting, isn't it? But maybe so is speech, and so is video, and so is lots of things, but still very interesting. But I put in the You Decorated My Life as a reference to the Kenny Rogers song. Because again, old guy, I get that. This one on estimates was great. I asked another engineer for his estimate of the effort. His estimate was 1 week lesser than yours. Then why don't you get him to do the project? He never completes anything on time. Okay, that does get a rim shot. Yeah, really good. I didn't know about this Work Chronicles comic. I'm going to have to start taking a look at that one. That's good. I, of course, immediately thought of Wimpy saying, I'll gladly pay you next Tuesday for a hamburger today, that estimate. Or Douglas Adams' famous quote, I love deadlines. I like the whooshing sound they make as they fly by. Yes. Oh, all my books were completed on time, right? Yeah. Sure. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. And clearly, he really did. Carving the pumpkin, going for walks, sitting in front of a roaring fire. I assume that's apples. Must be an apple harvest, I guess. Pulling the apples off the tree there, It rained and rained and rained here for days and days. I was thinking it was getting to be time to start building that ark, but the sun finally came out, so yeah. This one, Descartes, when he realized that people who don't think also exist. Yeah, at least I think they do. I certainly think that they think they do. And I was going to keep that up, but I thought, that's enough. But those eyes, oh my goodness. And finally, this is way too early, but this is when I encountered the image. Elf on a Shelf, how about? And of course, if you think about it, it's Cthulhu on the Sulu. Yeah. Have a great week, everybody. I've got a busy week just in that I have my functional programming class on the O'Reilly platform and my regular Trinity class again. But next week's going to be the really chaotic one. I'm flooded with classes, and given the rain we've had, I know what flooded means. So we'll see how that goes. I hope you enjoy this. Let me know if you have any comments or questions, and I will see you all next week. Take care, everybody.
Hey there, devs, it's time to tune in to Tales from the Jar, so let's begin. Java, Kotlin, it's spring, oh my. Cookie, Gradle, don't be shy. Tales from the Jar side, oh yeah. Crack open the code, let's take a ride. From design patterns to the latest trends, your weekly tech talks that never end.